Okay, new topic. The topic that I think is a bit of an issue at the moment, well, it's probably just something I just want to bring to people's attention, is that there's a lot of youngsters now, they're leaving the church, and not so much just leaving the church, but they're kind of doing this church hopping thing, where they're just going out and going to one church, going to another church, and then seeing what's different. Good, bad, your opinion, your comments, whatever. What do you reckon?
I think it's something that we've all done. Like we've all done that church hopping thing. Like that was a thing that I go to 3 churches. I go to Parramatta, Kellyville, Castle Hill. But what I've learnt in doing that, I found that my church experience was sort of altered, and it became about friends. It didn't become about making it community. It became about what I could get out of Sabbath to see my friends and where I need to be supporting people. I felt I wasn't supporting my church. I realized one time I went to Kellyville, turned up at 11:20, just turned up because I was like, well, I need to just be there. It wasn't meaningful. I didn't have a community there. It was yes, I have my family, but it was I was neglecting. I wasn't involved. I wasn't doing anything, and it becomes really selfish. I reckon I mean, it is good to church hop, but
community is friends.
Yeah, I know.
But she means in a church community. She didn't really feel part of the church as a whole.
But it's not saying that you shouldn't have friends in multiple circles. I'm not saying that, but I felt with your church family, I feel the church, we're going to the one project and stuff, community is such an important thing. Having small churches, that's what they did, but and they supported each other. They built each other up to go out and do the mission sort of thing. Whereas I feel I'm yes, we're going with our friends, but I felt that whole building each other up, supporting, going out into the mission field wasn't happening because I wasn't being involved with church. I was just sort of going, I don't know.
I think I'm very old school in a way that if I do something, if I that whole accepting issue and that whole thing about wanting to be part of something, I think I kind of gave and put an effort into where I was. I think it was still selfish on my part because I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to go there, I'm going to want something back. I'm investing in this church, I'm putting my time and efforts into this church, I'm going to expect this church to help me grow spiritually and stuff like that. So the only time where I think I started looking around for another church was when my actual church, not threatened, but came up with an idea not to continue, the youth stuff, or proposed that they no longer continue the youth stuff that was going. And I thought to myself, well, if they're not going to offer me something that I'm not going to be part of, I guess I'll go and take off and find a church that suits my needs. And the way, now that I look back on it, it is kind of selfish on my part, because if Christ is saying, oh, let's be servants, let's take he didn't come to be served but to serve. If we want to emulate him, then it's kind of hard to do that if we're oh, okay, I want to serve him, but under my expectations, and I want to serve him when it suits me in the church surroundings that I want to be part of, with the praise and worship that I want, and the service and the messages that that I like.
And I understand, because I come from a very a smaller church compared to the wider community, and it is a very community-based thing, and you feel like a family. But then I think about those people who do church hop, and I understand where it's sometimes it's hard to find a church that feels like family. And I know there are times where it's well, you got to stick by it, you got to put in as much effort as you can, but if it's just not working for you, then maybe you do need to go somewhere else and find a group. Because it's weird, when you go to different churches, they always have similar kind of people that all dwell together, and they kind of work together and fit in, because their people have found their people in a way. And so that's why I feel sometimes I was lucky enough that the church I go to, I was born and raised in it, and they're my kind of people. I get along with them and they make sense, but other people don't have that kind of experience. And that's why I feel church hopping sometimes is a good thing, because it opens them up to different experiences and provides them with opportunities to find their family.
When it comes to church hopping, I guess an outreach kind of perspective, I think it's really hard if you're encouraging people to go, I'll come into a church community where you'll feel loved and you feel accepted, and then when they come, you're off someplace else, and you're oh, because I actually don't feel accepted and I don't feel loved here, so I'm going to keep on finding it. And it's oh no, but come anyway. It's not hypocritical, but I think it's a bit contradicting to what you're trying to portray, to say, come into this family, come into this place where actually I don't have the patience for these people, so I'm going to go to another place.
But I totally agree with what Hope is saying. Church is supposed to feel like a family and a community, and you're not always gonna fit in everywhere, and not everyone is going to click and gel. And I think church is probably one of the scariest places to go if you don't have, you know, friends in the church. And like you, Lara, who you would go to socialize with things. And I think that's been proven to be the best way to bring people into a church community, is to be their friend. It's not even about doctrine or about, you know, even necessarily a relationship with Jesus Christ at the beginning. It's about friends, like who you know. And I think as churches, I think the biggest thing that we need to focus on is actually building relationships within the church, especially with newcomers and visitors. I think that is like the biggest thing ever. And it's not to grow the church, it's to just make sure that people know that there is a place for them to come where they feel welcomed and that they belong. It's not about, oh, how big can we get the church? How many numbers can we get, you know? I think that is one of the biggest things. And obviously that's not everybody's talent or you know, desire, because it is confronting to meet new people all the time. But you know, if you think about an example of a place that you've walked into where you don't feel welcome, or you know, no one's acknowledged your presence, it's the worst feeling in the world. And imagine you're coming into a collective body of people who have already got connections, and you are trying to, you know, do something that you feel will better for your life, like, you know, going to church again or whatever. It can be really scary.
And I think that's in saying that, like being that welcoming community and stuff, I find it's really hard to do if you personally are church hopping, because how can you be a welcoming person to help someone come into and be a friend to them and build that relationship if you're not constant, if you're not there? Because like I found that you're just going, and that's again like sort of you're just feeding yourself. You're not like incorporating other people, because you're like, I'm not here, I'm not a family, I'm not going to help you come into here because I'm going there and there.
On top of that, I don't know who it was, I think it was Eddie Hippolyte who said this thing. It was quite profound. And it's like, in not so much in church, but any circumstance, and I've kind of applied this, and it's pretty good. It's very challenging. It's like, you go into a certain situation, and if you experience, like if you feel the presence of God, if you experience Jesus, the love of Christ, like people are, you know, loving on each other and they're serving and stuff like that, just sit back and, you know, receive the blessing and, you know, like bask in that and enjoy that presence, you know, and enjoy that feeling. And like, so yeah, just enjoy that presence. But if you go into a circumstance, if you go into a situation and you don't see that, like you don't feel that, and you see that there's an absence of God and there's an absence of Christ, that's when you have to step into it and be an ambassador for Christ in that circumstance. And that's, I think, what's challenging. And then it kind of flips that whole consumerism mentality where it's what's in it for me, rather, okay, how can I be a blessing to other people? And I think the more that we kind of condition ourselves to do that, we'll start losing that whole mentality of, okay, I'm going to stop doing this and doing that and picking and choosing on what I want, rather than, because I love the commitment. I love the fact that there is a place where you can go constantly and you can say, I want to be part of this community, I want to be accepted, I want to belong. And then also, furthermore, I want to be a blessing to this place, and I want to bring people outside of this community to get an understanding of it, like to get to feel that as well.
I think church hopping can sort of maybe be good in terms of the fact that we should be supporting the churches around us as well, because sometimes I think there needs to be a balance between supporting your home church but also supporting the churches around you, because you're one community as well. Like you're one community as a whole that's actually trying to reach out to the wider community. So like if we're just there and we're like, no, we're just gonna stay in our little hole and we're and it's like, no, we're actually all a team. Like, and I think it's that balance that we need to, I don't know how we can get that.
I think you have to do that as a group collective, not
not as an individual.
Because it kind of hurts when you try and make all the effort and then you get burnt by no one else kind of feeling the love.
Talking from experience.
He like starts tearing.
No, but that's what I think is kind of cool, that like, you know, we can do this because we're from different churches now, right? And so we're kind of coming as a collective to say, okay, even though we do have our separate things, we're coming as a community, you know, showing love and stuff like that.
I think it's the individual attitude that people have towards it. Like a few weeks ago I ran to Surf, and it's not only about the run, like you have the volunteers, you have the people running, but you also have the people that go there and put in their 2 cents into the whole atmosphere, into the whole thing. And if you put that into a church aspect, you have the people getting involved, you have congregation, but you can also have the people that put their 2 cents in, that aren't in leadership roles, that aren't like, I'm a leader, but actually get involved and
Are they the kids that that hand out the drinks and hand out the cupcakes?
No, because the one that hand out the drinks, they're like...
Are they volunteers?
They're volunteers.
Oh, okay.
Then you've got other people, like pumping music, playing music.
The people around
People that live there with hoses,
The vibe.
hosing you down, like little kids handing out.
So besides getting involved, what's another reason why people leave? Hop.
Or hot? Are you saying hot or leave?
Hop.
No commitment at all, like that's in life as well.
So the person that's hopping has no commitment.
No.
Do you think it could
And that's
be-
what we're going to be talking about.
It
in
could
our
be
next
other.
topic.
I think
Now, why don't you tell us how you think? Just remember to leave a comment at the bottom.
we'd love to hear from you, darlings.
Okay.
Something's happened.
Cool.